Greetings, everyone, and welcome to ACEDS Data Unmasked, streaming live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. My name is Mike Quartararo, and I am the president of ACEDS. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are. Today, we're going to be joined by Nate Latessa, Executive Vice President of Advisory Services at Haystack. Haystack, of course, is a legal service provider that provides professional services in e-discovery, information governance, and cybersecurity. You can visit HaystackID.com to learn more about their offerings. Haystack is also a valued partner of ACEDS, and we like to showcase what our partners are doing for the benefit of our listeners. So we invited Nate to join us to discuss what's happening within the industry and some of what he's been up to, particularly in his new role at Haystack. Let's get into it. Nate, thanks so much for making time to join us today.
Absolutely. Good to see you again, Mike.
How are you?
I'm doing great. A little cold, but okay, we're getting through it.
Yeah, it's freezing here in New York as well. All right, let's start with a little bit about you. For those who don't know, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you found your way into e-discovery, and
Sure.
And particularly about your new role as EVP of Advisory Services at Haystack.
Absolutely. So Nate Latessa, like Mike said, Executive Vice President of Advisory Services at Haystack. I think I got into the space just like a lot of us did back in the day. 21 years ago, I kind of got into it by accident. I was a help desk technician working for a copy scan shop called ImageNet back in the day. And early or late in 2002, they said, there's this whole emerging business called e-discovery. We want to get involved. We're going to give you money to go start an e-discovery company. And I said, okay, I think I've never done that before, but was up for the challenge. And we started a company called 2XI, which stood for Second Generation ImageNet. And over the years, that grew into a fairly large organization. It was exceeding the revenue of the parent company, ImageNet. So we decided to bring those together and create Inventus. And that was kind of the background there behind that. And stayed in the space for about another 10 years. But, honestly, Mike, I was kind of getting frustrated with seeing a lot of the same problems, a lot of the same issues. I mean, we saw, poor data hygiene was just, causing e-discovery costs to skyrocket, and was really looking for ways to help organizations better manage the data further upstream. And so I decided to kind of pivot from there and start to look more at information governance and kind of left side of the EDRM, and made my way to a couple different software companies that had different, left side solutions. And did that for about 8 years, and found out I was more of kind of an information governance consultant at that point. But what was frustrating working for a software company is you have one solution, you only have one tool in your bag. So I decided to go more into advisory services and start to look at how we can help organizations, and bring really the best tools to the market and the best people. And that's how I've kind of landed at Haystack here.
Yeah, I've always kind of looked at the consulting piece as the key to this industry. So it's something obviously I've done, and well, fantastic. So this new role at Haystack, what's sort of the vision for expanding your information governance and technology consulting practice?
Sure. I mean, it's awesome coming in here. I'm used to kind of going into organizations where there's very little infrastructure, or they don't really have much in place. And at Haystack, we actually have a great foundation. We have a great information governance team that Andre Wallach started, and she brought in Matt Miller and Danny Pelk and Adam Feinberg and a bunch of other folks in the advisory services team. So we're already doing this work. We're doing it for some of the biggest companies in the world, and we've had a lot of success at it. So it's really building on that success. So focusing on some of the past projects we've done and what we've done to build those, to build that trust within the industry. Adding complementary services on what we already do. So we're expanding into Microsoft 365 and Google and Amazon, taking advantage of those technologies. We have a lot of really specific industry knowledge. So for instance, we just built an offering around universities because they have very unique challenges. So we've built kind of a bundled service offering that's really focused on that. And then really, like I said, the biggest thing is how do we help companies take advantage of the investments they've already made? I mean, every company's got tools. They've got a lot of different software. Microsoft 365, Google, Amazon, like we mentioned. I mean, every company probably has one of those technologies, and they're probably not even scratching the surface of all the capabilities that those things have. So really helping them take advantage of those technology investments to maximize that return on investment.
And so how are you leveraging, I assume, partnerships with places like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and yeah, I mean, everybody's moving to the cloud, right? So
yeah, right. That's it. I mean, every company is have, they're in the cloud somewhere, whether they're using like Amazon S3 buckets or Azure Blob Storage or taking advantage of all the tools in Microsoft and Google. So I think you have companies that have, like I said, they've made these investments, and a lot of times, like I said, they're really just not maximizing its potential. And there's so many tools within organizations. On the security side, I think the number I saw was something like the average company has 36 cybersecurity tools, right? I mean, it's insane to be able to manage all that. And it's the same on, information governance. We have a lot of different tools to do a lot of different things. So we want to focus on helping our clients first and foremost go in and evaluate everything they already have. What are they doing right? What tools do they have? Where can we, what tools can we repurpose or reuse or extract additional value from? So we always look at what they have, and then if there's certain gaps, then we can recommend technology solutions. But that's what's nice about being technology agnostic, is that we can work with everything.
Awesome. So I mean, obviously there's a lot of players in that space, particularly the SaaS based, cloud based software services industry. What's going to set you apart in your advisory practice from some of the other people in the space?
So when you look at some of the other folks, I mean, we run into the big four a lot, right? They're doing a lot of consulting inside some of these companies that we're talking to, these big organizations. And their approach typically is we're gonna drop an army of people on your doorstep. We're gonna do these big, 7-figure assessments or projects. And a lot of times, we're coming in talking to these companies that have worked or have gone through those assessments, and they're kind of disappointed at the end because they're kind of left holding the bag. They've got this assessment of all the areas where there's gaps or issues, and now it's up to them to go operationalize it. And really the difference between us is that we do a lot of those same assessments. We can even reuse existing work product, but also just taking those things now and starting to come up with a plan, an actual roadmap on how to operationalize that and make that real. So wrapping technology and automation around that to make those policies and programs, a real part of your business. I mean, there's no point in having them if you can't implement them, if you can't enforce them. And I think that's one of the areas that we can really help out and what really differentiates us. We're not just, again, doing the assessments on the front end. We're helping it through the whole spectrum, the whole life cycle there. We'll help you build those programs and policies and then operationalize that and start to, use them in a practical way.
So I can recall back in my law firm days, sitting in a room for 3 days with, let's just say, a big banking client and arguing with them about, whether any data we have on their behalf is in the cloud.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think that we've come a long way since then. But when you talk about these assessments, are organizations still sort of questioning the use of the cloud? Is that still a thing?
I think everybody's adopted. I mean, I think everybody's using the cloud, and what they realize too is you've got companies like, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon that are spending tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions or more on security. So a lot of time it's just kind of transferring some of that liability of the protection of that data to those organizations. They realize that there's a lot of savings there, like I said, from a security standpoint and just from a kind of economies of scale. So I don't think it's a problem, using those technologies. I think really where companies struggle right now is that I think they've kind of gone in, they've jumped in, they're using the cloud, but they don't realize all the functionality or all the capabilities that are built in. I mean, we're talking to some really big organizations that have, big licenses of Microsoft, like E5, their top tier business license, and they're not, using things like records management or some of the DLP features and stuff like that. So we want to come in and be able to help these companies. They've decided to make the investment, and we want to help, again, maximize that.
So since we're in e-discovery, and you mentioned, E5 and Microsoft, and what's your assessment of the number of organizations or the popularity of, the Purview products, those sort of back-end e-discovery tools that really nobody's thinking about, but they're there?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people are using the tools. I mean, especially, Purview e-discovery. We run into that all the time, and we do a lot of work there. People want to use these tools, but there are some issues, and they need to be aware of some of the limitations. Again, as powerful as they are, they definitely have some limitations. For instance, 365 doesn't have a complete index. It doesn't fully index documents. So if you're doing a search, there's a chance that it could be wrong. If you search more than one mailbox or more than 20 mailboxes at a time, you're going to start to run into some performance issues. You could run into some reliability issues with the results. So again, just kind of understanding what these things can do and also what their limitations are is really important. But definitely in e-discovery, we see people want to take advantage of some of these newer technologies, and we want to help them with that.
It just seems to make sense. Like, I don't know how many people are on M365, but it's a lot, right? And so, like, why not leverage these tools at least to sort of get a head start? I mean, it's not a review platform in any way, but it can help you understand what data you've got and how to pull it out and things like that. And it just seems like more people should be aware of and use that. But conversation.
Exactly. And we're having those conversations. We're doing some of the trainings on those things to help people understand that. Again, Microsoft does a really great job of kind of documenting everything, but they don't really have good, training on like practical use cases. I mean, we live and breathe in this world every day. We know, some of the things we need to keep in mind. And sometimes, Microsoft doesn't really do a great job of, building in kind of that practical knowledge. And that's where we can kind of help out.
Yeah, it's what I call it, the bubble, right? We live in the e-discovery bubble, and so we're aware of all the tools and workflows that are necessary. But Microsoft is I guess you would call it a productivity suite, and it's e-discovery is not their forte, so to speak. But we'll see how it goes
with everybody, right? I mean, we see that with all the cloud providers. I mean, it's not it's their whole model is how quickly can we get data into these systems like Box and Dropbox, and we want to push data to it, but e-discovery is really an afterthought because that's about getting data out to do something else with it. So none of them are built with e-discovery in mind. That's always really secondary or even further down the line.
Yeah, and I'm always kind of amazed too at the number of reported e-discovery court decisions that involve these providers, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and how you would think they've got this, but there's still issues out there. All right, listen, I want to plug. You've got a big webcast coming up in February, I want to say.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's around 365. We're going to be talking about different records management strategies and how to implement those and their impact on e-discovery. We're getting a lot of requests lately for records management in 365 because, again, people realize that there's some downstream benefits in the e-discovery standpoint from kind of controlling costs. But also, I think the big thing is with the release of Copilot this week to the broader audience, actually, they got rid of the limit. There used to be a 300 seat minimum you had for Copilot. That's now gone. So we're starting to see a lot of people that want to start getting Copilot, start testing it. And really, I mean, in order to do that, you need to have your security kind of architecture in place and make sure that everything's good there, and make sure that you've got kind of the records management piece implemented, because that's really going to help with that security side and make sure that people that are using some of these tools like Copilot don't have access to information they shouldn't. So we're going to talk a lot about that on that webinar and really focus on the whole record side in 365.
I think that's a big deal. Like Copilot I think it's going to change how we look at the Microsoft products a little bit. So it should be interesting. I don't actually, it came up on a new laptop I just bought, and I haven't even had a chance to play around with it, but obviously generative AI and the sort of the world of AI and all the hype and marketing fluff that comes with it is starting to invade the e-discovery industry. What's your take on it?
I'm excited about everything that's going on. And I think that, we're kind of testing out use cases, and we still have a ways to go to really see what its full impact is going to be. But I think there's something else that most people aren't thinking about. AI's really immediate impact is the amount of data that people are going to be able to create content, right? I mean, you can go into ChatGPT and tell it to, write you a novel, and one person can do that and spit out a novel in a couple minutes. I put Copilot in our sandbox, and I told it, go create a records management outline for me or training, and put it in PowerPoint and use nature graphics in there. And within about 30 seconds, I had a 12-slide presentation, with all that information. So I think, we really need to think about AI's impact is really going to be more immediate on the amount of data that people are creating. And unless we have good records management in place and we're kind of monitoring that, we could have some serious issues with data growth and expansion.
Yeah, and we've got data volume problems already. So imagine
Yeah.
people are going to be creating hundreds of copies of things. It's going to be fascinating to watch. But
It is.
all right, listen. Before we wrap, what's you coming up to Legal Week?
Absolutely.
What
this
is
will be my 20th year at Legal Week.
What has Haystack got planned?
We've got a lot. We've got a bunch of folks coming in, so we'll be there in force. We've got a happy hour that's going on. If anybody's interested, let me know, and we can see. I think there's a couple seats remaining. It's going to be good. Like I said, it'd be great to see the team. I haven't met a lot of the folks yet. It's on my third month, so I'm excited to just meet everybody and see everyone in person. We've had a lot of Teams calls, but I think it'll be great. Like I said, we've got quite a bit of activity going on and a great buzz around the company. So I'm excited to get out and talk to folks and let them know all the cool stuff we're doing.
Awesome. Bring your coat, dude. It's cold here.
Definitely.
All right. Listen, how should listeners get in touch if they're interested in your advisory services?
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach me on my email. It's just nlatessa@HaystackID.com, or just hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find.
All right. Anything else we need to talk about today?
I don't know, Mike. That's it. Just looking forward to seeing you. You know, we've talked about it's been 10 years since Legal Tech West.
Legal Tech West. It doesn't even exist anymore.
No. But
that's how old we're getting.
In person.
That is how old we are getting. All right, Nate, this has been great. Thanks so much for making time. Always happy to have you, and come back soon.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me, Mike. It's great talking to you.
Thanks so much. All right, everyone. If you are interested in our short form video interviews like this one, you can find Data Unmasked and our We Are ACEDS live streams in your LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook feeds, or check out all of these on our YouTube channel, where you can watch all previous interviews. Thanks so much for joining us today. Have a great day, everyone, and be kind to one another.